It's the Saturday Slide. What's going on, guys? It is the Saturday Slide here on Off-Shores.net. Glad to have you with me. You just heard Level 2 Pidgey in a Master Ball by Free Throw. They're from Tennessee, and honestly, they're the only 10 I see. Just wanted to throw out a recommendation here. They're a great band. You could get their EP for free on Bandcamp. It is freethroemo.bandcamp.com. All sorts of cool stuff. It's really good music. They're playing Fest this year, so, they're getting up there. They're going to be a band to watch, and you can get their stuff for free on Bandcamp right now. I really like it, and I recommend you check it out because I bet you're going to like it too. Hoping to do a little bit of work with them here in the next few weeks on Offshores. Taking a look at a little bit of Off-Shores.net news for the week here on the Saturday Slide. Let's see, last Sunday we did a DIY feature, The Perfect Pursuit, a post-hardcore band from here in the Sunflower State, Lawrence, Kansas, heavily influenced by bands like Anberlin, Dredge, Thursday, Thrice. They just released their debut LP, Extraordinary. It was all self-produced, and it's really well done. I highly recommend you check it out just because it's really dense, musically and lyrically, and while it's not the greatest music out there, they worked really hard on this, and there's a great message to be found within it, and also the album art. I want to throw this out there. It's really sick. It's a spoof on Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. So it's really cool, it's really thoughtful, and you can find it on Bandcamp. $10 is all it takes, and it is worth your money because it's really killer. So give them a follow on the Twits, the Facebook, and check it out on Bandcamp. Great music. This week I also did a 10-year tribute to Let It Enfold You by Census Fail. Now, don't get me wrong, when I wrote that tribute, it sounds really scathing and like I just tore it apart, like it's terrible music, and don't get me wrong, it's not the best music. It's really cheesy, it's really cliche, and basically, if you think you can relate to it, then you're probably 14 years old, but I still really like it, and here, this fall, they're going to be doing a 10-year anniversary tour for it, and I think this album really deserves that, because so many other people like myself were influenced by this record, and I just think it's cool, because it introduced me to screamo, it introduced me to heavy guitars, screaming, sad music. I mean, the first time I listened to this, I was just like, man, that's really sad. That's deep. And as angsty and hormonal as I was, I latched onto that. So, thank you, Census Fail, because without you guys, I probably never would have gotten brave enough to listen to bands like Under Oath. I thought those guys were like satanic heavy metal at the time, and Under Oath led me on to other bands like The Devil Wears Prada and stuff like that, and while that's not music I listen to anymore, it all introduced me to current day stuff that I listen to. I mean, I probably wouldn't be listening to Converge, or The World is a Beautiful Place, or maybe even The Wonder Years, if it wasn't for some of the bands like Census Fail back in the day. So, huge shout out to those bands, and I recommend you go check out that write-up on Let It Enfold You by Census Fail. Another really cool exclusive I did on the site this week, an interview with Karen Pagano. And if you pay any attention at all, you probably know she's Brandon Pagano's mom. Brandon plays in Handguns, and there is a whole slew of Paganos. I mean, these guys are like the Kardashians, because there's a million of them, and there's really no reason why they're famous, but they are. And by famous, I mean our kind of famous, but they're really good people. I mean, I don't mean like they're the Kardashians in the bad Kanye West loving sort of way. I mean, they're really good people. There's a lot of them. And Karen's just a really cool lady. I wanted to know more about what they do because they call themselves Team Pagano, but that's just what they've named their family, and they do cool stuff. They host house shows every once in a while. They have bands come over and stay in their basement when bands are passing through. They're some of the most hospitable people around, very good-natured, very good-humored, and, for every Ronnie Radke or Cody Payne out there, there's a Pagano. And I'm not kidding, because there's 6 of them. And while those guys may be busy being dicks, these guys are just gonna, make you a bed, give you a beer or some coffee, and hospitalize you. That's not the right word, is it? But anyways, check it out. Interview with Karen Pagano on Offshores. My buddy Josh, my buddy Josh, my buddy Josh, my buddy Josh is a punk rock professor. He knows a lot about it. The dude's just like a walking encyclopedia. He likes all sorts of older bands. He likes newer bands too. He likes some really good music. I mean, he knows a lot about Descendants, MXPX, Lifetime, bands like that. And he did a cool guest article for me this week called 9 Music Documentaries That Need to Hurry Up Already. He writes some really good stuff, and he knows a side of music that I don't know near that much about, so I really appreciate the write-up. And if you're into punk rock, then you should check it out too. Another DIY feature this week, Rhinoceros Rex from Tacoma, Washington. Now, I went to high school with Taliesin, and he's at the University of Puget Sound right now in Washington State, and he joined up with a band, and they're really cool. If you're into pop rock or grunge, maybe, think like Weezer's Blue Album, Violent Femmes, even modern day like Pity Sex or maybe Arctic Monkeys. This is right up your alley. It's so catchy, it's so fun, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and this is just their first outing. It's just 4 or 5 tracks that you guys should listen to. Cool music, cool dudes, cool content. Everything good comes from Washington, am I right? I'm talking about Nirvana, Death Cab for Cutie, Heroin, the Seattle Seahawks. I can't think of anything else, but Washington State's a pretty good place, and even if you don't like Washington State, you should be listening to Rhinoceros Rex. Anyways, thank you guys for watching the Saturday slide this week, because, hey, let's face it, I'm glad you're reading some of my content, but anyways, I'll be back next week with more great stuff. Thanks for watching the Saturday Slide, and don't forget to watch this week's episode of The Pizza Party here on Off-Shores.net.